Ashigaru is an Android-based Bitcoin wallet with a focus on privacy. It's actually an anonymous fork of the now shut down Samourai Wallet. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Ashigaru Wallet, everything that's in it, all of the features, and how to use them. I am Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.
Bitcoin Well is on a mission to enable independence by being one of the easiest and quickest ways to purchase Bitcoin in Canada and the US. And the best part about it, every buy goes directly into your own self-custody. They never hold your coins. You can add a Bitcoin address as part of onboarding. There's a transparent 1% spread, no hidden fees, no withdrawal fees. Plus they have KYC free sells and bill payments on their website. They're also a publicly traded company under the ticker BTCW on the TSXV. Check them out over at bitcoinwell.com. Check out my full tutorial on how to use them, and you can check out the links in the show notes down below and sign up today. CoinKite.com has some of the best hardware on the market today to secure your Bitcoin. The Cold Card Q is an absolute powerhouse and is my daily driver. And on top of this, they have plenty of other goodies, including the Mark IV, the Tap Signer, Open Dimes, the Block Clock, and much more. If you head over to their website, make sure you use code BTC Sessions at checkout to get a nice discount. Links are in the show notes down below. So let's start with your prerequisites. What are you going to need to know and do in order to successfully navigate this tutorial? Well, first up, and let me bring up my screen here, Ashigaru Wallet is specifically for Android. And part of the reason for this is because the developers that have forked the project, they want to ensure that you can load this onto your phone without going through the App Store. In fact, they're avoiding app stores entirely. And unfortunately, if you're an iPhone user, it's not possible to sideload applications onto your phone. Apple has a stranglehold on what you can and can't do with their hardware, and therefore you are stuck with the iOS App Store. However, with Android, you can install applications that aren't native to it and that aren't on the Google Play Store. You can do that. You have optionality for how you download and install anything that you want. So that's one thing. You got to have an Android phone. Now, the other thing is, this is part 2 of the Ashigaru series. There may be another one in the future if more features pop up. But why is this part 2? Well, it's because you must run a Dojo Node. And this pertains to kind of the back end of how the wallet functions. In and around a lot of the coin join coordination features, which is, again, one of the privacy tools inherent to this. The way it used to work with Samourai Wallet is you had optionality. You could run your own dojo, which is basically a Bitcoin node with some additional features and tools built into it. Or you could defer to a server that was run by the Samourai developers and just let them run it for you. Now, with that, there was some privacy trade-offs in that you were leaking or sharing your XPub, your extended public key, with them in order to properly coordinate and grab addresses and everything, which they did say that they were discarding that information, but there was no way to explicitly guarantee that. And so if you didn't want to do that, then you had to run your own Dojo node. With this, there is no coordinator. There is no server because there's been law enforcement actions that have shut down those servers, which is the reason for the fork of this project. And so they are starting from a point of you must run your own dojo in order for this to function and for you to use all of the features therein. And so I've done a video on that, Ashigaru Dojo Node. And so if you haven't done that, then that's where you're going to want to start. So you're going to want to go and take a look. You can do it from run-of-the-mill kind of mini PC parts and everything like that. And it's I would consider it a project, like a weekend project. Okay, I'm going to sit down with the video. I'm going to build this thing. I'm going to go through all the steps, and I'm going to set aside some time to get it running. And then you come back here and you're going to go ahead and follow through and learn all the features of the wallet. Now, with this video, I walk through the entire setup of creating the Dojo node and installing and linking the Ashigaru wallet to it. So this tutorial is going to start from a place of you have Ashigaru wallet on your phone linked to your dojo. So if you jump in and you're like, wait, how did you get to this point? There's the answer. And I will link this video in the show notes down below. Now, other than that, in terms of what else you're going to need to know, some general concepts in and around to how to send and receive Bitcoin payments, regular transactions. But outside of that, we'll go through and we'll just walk through all of the features, what they are, why you might want to use them, and then how to actually use them. So if you know how to send and receive Bitcoin, great. If you know how to back up a wallet by keeping your seed phrase, your 12 or 24 words safe, great. That is an asset here. But the main thing is you need an Android phone and you need a running Dojo node to link this wallet to. So check out that previous video down below. And with that, let's dive into Ashigaru Wallet on my Android phone. This is a secondary one. If you did watch the first video, which you kind of need to at this point, if you did watch the first one, this is a secondary Ashigaru wallet than the one I set up in the initial video. So it's I basically created another wallet and linked it to the same dojo. Okay. And the reason for that is I want to transact between them. And there's certain features that I want to show you from Ashigaru to Ashigaru. There's a number of things. So anyways, if it looks a little bit different, then that's why. If you've got a keen eye and you're kind of checking things like my Paynym address and all that and seeing what's different, that's why. It's a different wallet, but we'll be sending to that other original wallet back and forth with our tests. But anyways, I digress. Let's dive in. Let's take a look at Ashigaru. Let's get ourselves centered and see what we have in the application. Okay, here we are on my Android phone with Ashigaru installed, linked to our dojo. Let's get our bearings. What is on the screen in front of us? How do we navigate around? All of that stuff. So up here on the main screen, of course, up top, we have our balance. You can tap on that and change it to the sats, or you can have full Bitcoin in decimal form, whatever you prefer. They do not have fiat denominations in this wallet. So anyways, again, you've got the price up top. You've got the amount up top. Down below in that kind of blank area here that I can expand by swiping up and down, that will be a list of previous transactions. Of course, there's nothing there as of yet. Top left, so let's look up there. If you tap on that little avatar there, that will show me my Paynym, which is a private payment code that I can freely post anywhere public, and it won't identify directly my Bitcoin addresses, but will allow people to generate a new one that they can send to. So much more private than just posting publicly a Bitcoin address. And we'll get into that feature momentarily. There's also an option to collaborate. So that is collaborative coin join with another person sending, so that there's no decipherable way who is sending where for what amount. And, if other people were involved, it obfuscates a little bit of what's going on and makes it hard to decipher exactly what happened. There's also a tools section, which I can click on. You have things like sweeping a private key, signing a transaction, like a partially signed Bitcoin transaction, broadcasting, signing messages with the private key of your wallet, verifying messages, calculating new addresses that are part of your wallet or part of your private and public keys, and authenticating using Paynym. So this is a simple and secure password-free authentication using your unique Paynym code. So just various tools that may or may not be useful to you depending on what you're trying to do. There's also pairing information. This is in and around pairing to Whirlpool, things like that, which it does not currently exist. The Whirlpool servers were shut down. However, we'll talk about that a little bit and what I think may come about there. There's also watch-only wallet. So you can take this wallet that you have here, you can export the credentials to something called Sentinel, which is specifically a watch-only wallet where you can just, again, watch the addresses, add to the balances, all that kind of stuff, but not have any spending credentials. What else do we have here? Again, top left. Let's take a look at settings really quick, just to kind of see what's in there. If we go into wallet, these are all the specifics of, saving a backup on your device. So even if you delete the app, you can easily restore. Scrambling the PIN screen. So when you open it up and you go to put in your PIN, if somebody's tracking your taps, they won't be able to tell what your PIN was, or if somebody's trying to watch over your shoulder. Just haptic feedback, showing your seed, your stealth mode, cool feature. We'll dive into that later. Getting like your extended public keys, all that kind of stuff is here. Changing your PIN, exporting your wallet backup, securely erasing the wallet. All those are in there. For transactions, there's specific settings. Okay, do you want SegWit addresses? Do you want to receive change to like typed outputs? So like making sure you're getting it to the same types of addresses. Spending using replace by fee. That was off by default. I turned it on because I like the ability to bump the fees on my transactions if I need to. You can broadcast transactions again. If you want to uncheck it, it'll just copy kind of like a raw signed transaction to the clipboard and you have to broadcast it somewhere else. And then strict mode, I left it on, but it says strict control of transaction outputs and address reuse. That sounds like something you would want out of a privacy wallet. Okay, again, just general troubleshooting where you can test your passphrase and backup. Prune your backup, wallet indexes, Paynym calculator. So you can figure out what addresses have been shared so far. All that kind of more technical stuff that you might want to look at. And then just a general about section. Okay, so that covers the top left there. We've looked through all of that. Again, there's a scan button up top there, the little square with the QR. That's just to scan an address. If you tap on the little Wi-Fi looking signal in the top middle there, this is your data connection. So you can disable it if you're turning this into a watch-only wallet. Tor is running. And then I have connectivity to my Dojo. It shows that I am connected, the current block height. I can show the pairing credentials, which I'm not going to show here, but we walked through that in the previous video. Okay, so that's all that. Let's get back out. And then this is still here. As I said, Whirlpool has been shut down. If you take a look in the top right, there's a little Whirlpool logo or button. And if I tap on that, it takes me to my post-mix wallet. Now, we're going to be experimenting and kind of seeing where peer-to-peer coin join coins end up and all of that. But this is again your post coin join wallet. Same thing. You've got a balance up top. You've got previous transactions that are going to be in the bottom section there. There you can go into your unspent outputs, so your UTXOs and all of that. To get back to your main wallet, it's the piggy bank in the top left. And then finally, let's go down to the bottom here, the little plus sign. If I hit that, you have options. You have receive, send, and Paynyms. Receive and send is pretty straightforward. It'll give you a receive address or it'll ask you where you want to send to. There will be additional tools in there in and around privacy as we get into that part. And then Paynyms up top, if I tap on them, it goes to the same place as we saw in the top left, but I'll show you first. So we'll tap on the Paynym thing. It takes you to your Paynym and gives you all of the information and all of your like linked Paynyms that you regularly pay to. This can also be gotten to by going up into the top left and then tapping on your Paynym name, and it'll take you to the same screen. Okay. So now that we have the navigation and everything that's kind of in the wallet, let's start from the bare bones basics. Let's load this wallet up with some funds and learn the ropes of all the tools that are in front of us. All right, so I'm just going to show you the basic flow of a regular receive in Ashigaru Wallet. Again, quite simple. I'm going to go down to the bottom right, hit the little plus button. We're going to hit receive with the little piggy bank image. This is going to give us a regular Bitcoin address and a QR code. Of course, anybody can scan the QR code if they're present or if they see it online, although I wouldn't advise sharing a static address online publicly. Or again, you can give them this information here. You can copy the payment string, the actual Bitcoin address there, and then you can send it in whatever messaging forum that you like. I'm just going to send it here from Sparrow Wallet on my desktop. So I'll paste it in there. We'll double check the first few digits, the last few digits. Looks good to me. Okay. And then I'm going to just give it a label here. So we'll just call it Ashi for short. Okay, so I will be shooting off. I'm going to shoot off a few transactions here so that we have UTXOs of varying sizes as if we'd been receiving a number of payments from different people. Okay, so we'll do one for 400,000 sats, I believe, and I'll go ahead and create the transaction, finalize, and sign. This is just a hot wallet on my computer, by the way. If you are unfamiliar with Sparrow, I'm going to link it down below. The important thing is not how this wallet works, but more so just how to receive here in Ashigaru. So hit receive, allow somebody to scan your QR code or share your Bitcoin address with them, and you're good to go. But I digress. We've done that here. We've got the address, and we're just going to send it off, and it should broadcast momentarily. Okay, there's our notification. So we're good to go. We'll jump back here. I no longer need to be on the screen. I can press back and go out and swipe down will refresh, and we'll see if it does show up. It might take a moment to actually see the incoming transaction. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it's right there. Perfect. So it now reflects in the balance. Now we have, and I'll tap on it here. This gives us a little bit more information about the transaction itself. So it lets me know this is when it came in, the time. It's currently unconfirmed, meaning that it's sitting in the mempool, but it hasn't been added to the Bitcoin blockchain yet. So no confirmations on it. It advises kind of if you're going to be spending and you want to be certain that you have those funds, you might want to wait 3 confirmations, but there we go. Okay, it lets you know the miner fee rate, what the miner, the total of the miner fee, the transaction ID, all of that. And then you can also, from within the wallet, you can hit boost transaction fee. This transaction is awaiting confirmation. Please select an option. You can increase the transaction fee if it's taking a long time. Okay. I'm not going to do that right now, but just know that feature is there in the wallet. And there is a little button where you can actually view this in an Explorer. Now, this will, I can just copy the transaction ID and go and view it. It's trying to be as private as possible. There we go. Okay, so it did load, so it just takes a second. It's via Tor. So there we go. We have full kind of insight into everything that's going on. Again, the fee rate, it's replaced by fee because I did turn that on. Unconfirmed when it was first seen. All of that information is all there for us to see if we need it, and we can back out, and then that will confirm momentarily. Now I'm going to go through that process again. I'm going to send over a few more transactions, but the long and the short of it, very simple. For a basic receive, hit plus, hit receive, and share the QR code or the Bitcoin address, preferably with an individual person and not publicly, as you're trying to preserve privacy with this wallet. So we'll be back. I'm going to send in a few more transactions and we'll continue on from there. Okay, so I've now received a number of transactions And I just want to note a few things that we're seeing on the screen here. We can see the series of transactions coming in. We can also see a note at the top of that list there that says pending because they're all waiting to be confirmed. But we also have an option where in the kind of not top right, but the little menu that appears and disappears if I scroll down, if I tap there, then I can see my unspent outputs or my UTXOs. These are the pieces of Bitcoin that I have received into my wallet. If you're unfamiliar with the idea of UTXOs, Bitcoin is a lot more like cash than a example static bank account. A bank account is simply just a balance, and the balance is the balance. Whereas when you think of cash in a physical wallet, if somebody pays you a $10 bill and a $20 bill and a $50 bill, you can look into your wallet later and you can see those individual bills sitting in the wallet. Now, Bitcoin functions much the same way. When you first receive a transaction, you have a chunk of Bitcoin sitting in the wallet for that denomination. So this is what we can see here. In fact, these UTXOs right now perfectly mirror the transactions I previously received. That's because I haven't done any additional spending or changing of them or whatever. They are all sitting as I receive them. And I'll tap up top to do it in sats because it's easier to talk through. But 400,000 sats, 350,000 sats, 500,000 sats, 425,000 sats, and the remainder of the wallet I sent over 328,000 some odd sats. If I look at the UTXOs, well, lo and behold, exact same denominations. These are pieces of Bitcoin for those amounts now sitting in my wallet, and I can see them all. And some of these may have come from specific sources and may have certain privacy implications with them as I'm dealing with them. So we'll get into that momentarily, but I just wanted to show you what that looks like on the inside of the wallet as you've received them. Actually, I want to add on one more thing, and it's going to be in and around labeling. So if I go into my UTXOs here, I can actually click on individual ones when I've received them, and I can add notes to them. So I can hit add, and I can give this a label. So maybe this one was from somebody named Adam. So I'm going to click that there. Okay, great. If I want to edit that, I can. If I want to get rid of that label, I can. But this is just for my own cognition. Hey, Adam sent this to me. He knows that I have it. He can look at it on the blockchain right now and see where it is. He can also see if it intermingles with other UTXOs. So if I go to send his UTXO and I also use part of another one, he gets to see that. Or if I spent the entire balance of the wallet all at once, he would see, I sent Ben 500,000 sats, and then he went on to spend whatever it is I have in there, 2 million something sats. So I know that he had at least 2 million sats. So people can follow the UTXOs on chain and see what you're doing, and that's some of the benefits of labeling. If you don't want somebody to see some of that information, then you may select specific UTXOs to spend in certain instances. Now, I do want to show up top here, there is also a little settings option. I can spend this UTXO to compose a new transaction. I can see the spending status or change it. So I can flag a UTXO. So why might somebody do that? Well, if you receive a small amount and you don't know where it came from, it may be a dust attack, which is somebody sending a little bit of Bitcoin to a number of Bitcoin addresses to probe and see where else they go and try to track subsequent transactions. You can freeze those if you see those come in. So that's nice. Sign message with the private key for this address. So proving that you own the address to somebody. Again, generate the private key for this address and reveal the redeem script. Okay, so some technical stuff there, but I'd say the most pertinent stuff would be in and around spending this specific UTXO if you want to use it, or marking it as unspendable if you want to, if you have a reason to. So with that, let's go back. There we go. I'm going to give some random labels to these other UTXOs as well so that we can see in practice how we might use those moving forward. Now, I do want to show one other way to receive, and we're going to dive into it a little bit more later on, but I just want to point attention to it. So if you hit the plus sign down at the bottom right and you go to Paynyms, remember that's also accessible from the top left of your main screen, you have two things here. You have a Paynym ID, which is this glorious nature 03. And you also have a string of text down below. Now, if I hit share, there's a QR code. Anyone can scan that if they have a Paym enabled wallet like Ashigaru. And so you can freely share this information online anywhere. So you can put the QR code somewhere. You can also, this string of text is the same information. You can share that anywhere with anyone, and they'll be able to generate new addresses to send you Bitcoin without the entire world knowing what those addresses are, despite the fact that this is posted on a public forum. So it adds a layer of obfuscation between the QR code and the string of text and your actual Bitcoin addresses. So that is how you can share that. There is a little share button that will bring up possible messaging applications to share them through. And again, this glorious nature right here, that string can just be sent to somebody. You can just say, hey, my Paym ID is glorious nature 03. And then anybody will, from their wallet, be able to create a connection with you and then generate addresses at will and be able to send you payments without you ever having to give them a new receiving address. They'll always be able to generate new ones to send to you. So that's another way to receive. I'm not going to dive into this yet. We're going to do a few other things before we get to the Paym section. But no, you can receive with any of this information here if somebody else also has a Paym enabled wallet like Ashigaru. All right, so some time has passed. Everything is now fully confirmed. So you can see rather than saying pending under the transactions there, it says today. And that would be broken up if some of them were pending and some were not. But it's labeling them as all of them have been gone through. They're officially confirmed. I can actually tap on the individual transactions. It'll let me know how many confirmations have happened, so on and so forth. Now, we're going to go through some different ways to do some basic sending using nothing more than just coin control. And what I mean by that is I've gone through and I've labeled these transactions and thus the UTXOs associated with them. And I'll just kind of walk through some things you want to be cognizant of as you're sending out of your wallet here without having done any sort of mixing. So just some good practices. So what I want to do here is I'm going to grab a receive address from this demo tutorial wallet here. Again, in Sparrow, they recommend you give labels as well. So I'll just put Ashigaru and I'll go ahead, I'll copy that address. So what we're going to do, and maybe I'll do some rearranging here so I don't have to jump around so much. So what we're going to do is on the phone here, we're going to go down to the little plus and we're going to hit send. Now this allows us to select the spending account we're spending from. Now post mix would be after a coin join, and we'll get into that part of it momentarily. But we're going to just be looking at, again, basic spends from your balance as is. The same lessons can be applied later on as you're spending from any post mixes that you may have done. But let's just start from the deposit account. So choose that account. And where am I going to send it? Well, I'll paste in, if I can, I will paste in the address there. And actually, I don't know if it's going to let me right click from the screen here. Let's see. Is that the same one? Yep, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so I've pasted in my address. How much do I want to send? You can click in the BTC or SAT denomination. It also lets you know the total available amount. If you tap on that, it will select everything. Okay, so let's just do a basic spend. Okay, what do I want to spend? Well, it's going to really depend on what you're trying to do, but let's do 150,000 sats and see what it presents us with. So did that. I'll hit the little arrow there. It says, here's the destination address. Here are the fees you're paying. And here's the transaction type, the entropy, and the interpretations. So this is the interesting part in regards to how this transaction is being structured to make it more private. So transaction type is Stonewall. We'll see what that means in a sec. The entropy, 1.58 bits, and the interpretations. This is how many different ways can this transaction be interpreted from the outside looking in? Meaning, if somebody were looking at this, how certain are they that you sent to a specific address? And the chances of them guessing correctly is going to be 1 in 3, so a 33% chance. Let's hit preview there and see. So I am grabbing 2 inputs, 2 pieces of Bitcoin or UTXOs that were sitting in my wallet. One that is 425,000 sats, one that is 328,713. We're taking those pieces of Bitcoin and we're breaking them up into a number of different pieces. So the spend destination, the address that I want to send to, is going to receive 150,000 sats. However, I'm also sending some money back to myself. There's change there. And I've purposely grabbed more Bitcoin than I needed to do this transaction. So I'm taking 2 pieces of Bitcoin. I'm sending 150,000 sats to the actual destination. I'm sending 150,000 sats back to one of my own addresses, a brand new one. That's going to be change. I'm sending 274,000 sats also back to my own wallet, and 177,000 sats back to, am I reading that right? Or is that 1,770,000? No, that's 177, sorry. 177,000 back to my own wallet as well. And then I've got a minor fee of just shy of 2,000 sats. So when somebody looks at this on the outside looking in, there's many different ways to interpret it. Maybe they guess it right and they say, okay, well, this person sent 150,000 sats to this address, and then they sent a bunch back to them. It would be very hard to guess that. Or maybe I sent 150,000 sats to this address, and that's somebody else's address that I sent to, and then this was changed to me. Or maybe this was the desired output, or maybe this one. And so it becomes difficult to interpret who was sending where. Was this one person? Was this 2 people, as we'll see in an example momentarily? So this is basically what's happening. By default, it will choose with the settings that we have, it will choose something like this, if possible, based on the coins in your wallet. Now, I can also change that. So up top here, I can make it simple for the lowest minor fees, or I can manually select the inputs. Let's say I didn't want to grab the input from Bob and the input from Evan. Maybe I don't want those 2 to know about what happened with their coins in concert with each other. And so I can go and I can say custom, and I can select the UTXOs that I would like to use. And so that's, again, another way that you can play with it. I'm just going to default to what is right here. Okay. And so I can now back out to where I was. The minor fees is another thing you can play around with. So I can hit manage and it will say, okay, well, how quick do you want it to go through? Next block, or you can take it normal and that'll be 3 sats per byte right now, or low. But I'm going to do next block. And then I think that should be fine for me. And then I can add a note to the transaction. It's always good to do this just to make note of exactly what you're doing. So I'm going to go and I'll just say to tutorial wallet. Okay, perfect. I'll hit that. Now everything is all set up. I just went with the default. I didn't change the fee or anything here, and that all looks good to me. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to hit send, and I'm going to tap and hold. Tap and hold, swipe to send. And off it goes, creating transaction and broadcasting transaction. And there we go. Off it has sent. And now it does have a nice little additional setting that says, for your change, do you want to mark do not spend? So maybe there's a little bit of change left over, and I'm worried about the recipient looking at the change and saying, I want to track what this person does next and start to figure out how much money they have. You can also freeze that leftover UTX. So if you want, I'm not going to do so right now, but this is where you start thinking about, who am I sending to? Am I worried about this person trying to track my actions moving forward? That's where that might be useful. Okay, so I'm going to X out of that, and we should have an updated transaction here. And every time when you refresh a balance here, it will then show your updated. It will zero out the balance up top momentarily, and then it will show. Okay, so there we go. 151,988 sats going out. So that's the transaction plus the miner fee. And there we go. Now let's take a look at actually how that looks on the blockchain. All right. So again, I'm on ClearNet here. I'm looking up a transaction. This may not be something that you want to do. Again, you may want to do it through Tor browser instead. But I just wanted to quickly show this graph. And again, for a tutorial, I'm not super worried about this at the moment, but here we have our transaction. We can see that there are two inputs. So those two thicker lines coming in, this one and this one, those were our two UTXOs. Okay. Then we see 4 decisive outputs. And then we also see the fee coming out. And so it gives us details about what has happened. It shows these are the inputs, the 2 UTXOs. These are the outputs that came out of the transaction. And so somebody looking at this wouldn't necessarily know what was the main destination address, what was the change. And there are, as it said in the wallet, 3 different potential interpretations of what has happened here, just with the default settings making this private. Now, I want to show a couple other tools that are available from a basic one-person send like we've been doing. So I'll just pop over, I'll get a new receive address here and copy that. But let's go down again to the bottom right. We'll hit the plus and we'll hit send. We'll choose the account that we want to send to, and then we will paste in the address. We'll double check again, first few digits, last few digits. Looks good. Okay, and now we're going to select an amount. So maybe this time I'll do 11,000 sats. Okay. So there's a couple things that you can do here. You can go up and you can take a look at batch spending. So maybe I want to send to multiple addresses here. So I can batch spend, and this will give me, again, let's start from scratch here. Paste in that address. We'll do 210,000. Okay. Add to batch. Okay. So that's one spend that I'm doing there. Maybe I need another address. So again, maybe this is somebody else's address that I want to spend to. Okay. Copy that. We will paste it in. We'll have another amount. Maybe that amount is, so maybe this one is 173,000 going to this address, and I add it to the batch. And you can keep doing this and adding to the balance of what you're sending and where, and it will interpret this for you as need be. So we can see the current batch. I'm sending 383,000 sats, or 0.00383. And so let's say I've put together all of the people I want to send to. I hit the arrow button. And now this one, again, it says the batch total is this much, and then it will break down the addresses I'm sending to and the amounts. The miner fee is here, and we can manage it as we did in the last example. And then it says type of transaction, batch. So let's preview and see what it's doing here. Now, there's no real trickery happening in a batch transaction. It's just going to where I need it to go to by default here. So I'm using one UTXO, that 500,000 sat one. There's a spend destination here, a spend destination here, and there's some change left over from this of around 116,000 sats coming back to me, and then a miner fee. Up in the top right, let's see what options I have. I don't have an option for Stonewall, but I can custom and select my inputs. Maybe instead I want to use this one of 400,000 sats or whatever it is. You can also see that my UTXOs left over have changed because I now have these UTXOs that say to tutorial wallet. Now, what's the deal with that? Well, those are remnants of my previous transaction that I did. Remember, I had different pieces of change coming back to me. Well, these are a couple of them, 274,000 sats, 177,000 sats. These are inputs, and I can scroll down. There's another one here. So you can actually scroll here, just so you know. And there's that 150,000 sat UTXO. And these are all labeled to tutorial wallet. Why do they all share that label? Well, that's because when I spent, the person that received that UTXO would see and potentially know that it came from me if they were expecting a payment. And then they would see the rest of the UTXOs that went out from that transaction. And so they can look at that and be like, well, it looks like he owns 1, 2, 3 UTXOs. And so what this label is meant to do is let me know, hey, I spent to this address. The person I spent to may be able to see or may be paying attention to what I do next with these pieces of Bitcoin. Now, that person is aware of these three, but is not aware of this one labeled Don or Clyde or Adam. Okay. But he will be if I spend any of those together with these other UTXOs. So this is where you start to think and kind of go through as you're utilizing UTXOs and selecting. This is basically coin control as an individual, just using simple labels. Okay, so we've got all that. I'll go back here. Again, if I want to send this, I would hit send or hold to send and then swipe and it would go off. I'm not going to send this one. I just wanted to show what it looks like to do a batch transaction. Let's examine one other thing. All right, so for this example, we're going to take a look at what it is like to send a Ricochet transaction. Now, what is a Ricochet transaction? Well, if you have partaken in privacy techniques and coin joins, some entities may not like that and may try to flag your transaction as it comes in and say, oh, you're high risk or something like that. But you can actually avoid that because what they're doing is they're looking back a certain number of transactions or a certain amount of history in the blockchain and saying, oh, there was a coin join 2 transactions ago or whatever it may be. We don't like that. We're going to flag you. But you can only do that so far back before it becomes infeasible. So what Ricochet does is it actually bounces your transactions off of multiple addresses before arriving at their final destination. And so if let's say an exchange is saying, if there's a coin join in the last transaction before it came to us, we're going to flag it. Well, what you can do is you can do a Ricochet transaction that adds in a hop or two before then, and then that wouldn't set off the red flags that causes them to flag you. So again, let's just take a look at what that looks like. We're going to hit send, choose our account. We'll paste in an address here just as an example. And I'm going to say I'm sending, I don't know, 200,000 sats. Okay. There is a little toggle switch here that says Ricochet. We'll turn that on. And it says additional hops between your wallet and the final destination to increase fungibility. Again, as I explained. It also gives an added option for extra privacy and analysis resistance, which I love. Each hop will appear in mempool 1 block apart, designed to be slow. Do not enable for urgent sends. So again, that just will continue to send to addresses that you yourself own. Hop, 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 giving some time between them. So it's not like, oh, it hopped to 6 different addresses in a single block of transactions and then ended up, because that might set off a red flag for some people too. So if you want to add that, boom, there you go. And so again, this will add additional hops. So let's take a look at how it shows. So it says transaction, Ricochet. Let's hit preview there. So spend to destination at hop 4. So what that means is you're going to hop to 3 other addresses that you own. And then on the 4th hop, it actually goes to the destination. So a total of 4 transactions. Now, this then does incur a fee. Okay, so you're going to see a fee that is here. I'd argue it's a little steep here, but the miner fee is also a little bit elevated because, well, you're doing multiple transactions all in one. And then you see just the basics, 200,000 sats going back, this amount coming to the, coming returned into the wallet, and then the miner fee, and so on and so forth. Okay, we're using this UTXO. Now, if I click up top, it just says simple, the lowest for miner fees, or I can custom select my inputs. We're not using Stonewall or anything fancy like that for the Ricochet transaction. Again, this is pretty much that. It's up to you to decide if the Ricochet fee is worth it. Obviously, I'm using a small amount here, so it's not very economical for me to be doing this, but that's what it looks like. And I'm not going to send this off now, but again, if you're maybe dealing with an entity that is at risk of flagging your transaction because you've been doing coin joins or something that they aren't a fan of, but you do need to send to this entity, well, Ricochet could potentially solve that problem for you. All right, so the next number of features we're going to cover is going to come into play with having contacts via our Paynym section. And so I'm going to go through how to connect with another person and how to be able to send to Paynyms, receive to your Paynym, and also how to do collaborative coin joins on the fly, either to somebody else with a Paynym or to an entirely different wallet that you want to send to, but collaborate with somebody to do a coin join in the process of sending that payment. So there's a lot there. But first, we're going to cover how do you connect to somebody else who is also using Paynyms. So we're going to do that right now. Remember, the Paynym section is accessible 2 places, the top left where your little avatar picture is, or if you go to the bottom right, hit the plus button, and then you can go to Paynyms right there. So this brings up your Paynym page. Now, again, for somebody to be able to connect to you, you can share with them a couple different things. Simply your Paynym ID. So mine, Glorious Nature 03. There's also a Paynym code. And for easy sharing, there's a share button up top, and that will bring up a QR code that anybody can scan. Or it also brings up a string of text, which can be clicked on and then shared via any messenger app. Again, this information is publicly shareable. It does not expose any of your Bitcoin addresses that can then be easily tracked. Somebody will need to connect to you, and then they'll be able to generate unique addresses every time they want to send you a payment. And so what we can see is I've actually preemptively, with another wallet I've created, I've gone and created or followed myself. So in this instance, I would have shared the QR code or the string down below, and a person would have been able to follow me. And then we can see that has popped up here in my list of followers, people that have, that are able to send me payments if they like. There is an additional step before that can take place, but we just know that somebody has basically more or less added me into their list of people they're interested in being able to send to. I can click on this as well, and I can follow them directly here. However, I want to show the other way of following, as I mentioned, being able to scan a QR code or paste in a code. Okay, so we'll go right back into Paynyms here. Now, on this other phone that I've got here, I've got a separate account. And so I'm going into the Paym here, and I'm hitting the share. So I've got a QR code here and a different code. And then on this phone, I'm going to click the scan button up above. Okay. So I can also hit the plus sign down below, and I can scan a QR code or paste a payment code. So I can do it that way as well. So let's go ahead and scan. But if somebody had texted us that string, we could simply click paste payment code. So we're going to hit scan. That opens up the camera. I'm now going to scan that, and it lets me know, hey, this is somebody known as FunnyTime77. I'm going to choose to follow, and I'll hit yes. Now that I've followed this individual, it shows me the option to connect, and it gives a little bit of detail around that. So I can connect with this individual to generate unique private addresses for sending Bitcoin to this contact. So following is a way of adding a person that you may potentially want to send payments to. So kind of like an address book, I suppose. But in order to be able to generate unique addresses for them each time, you need to use and spend a small payment to establish that connection. There needs to be an actual movement on the blockchain in order to do that. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to hit the connect button and see what happens here. Now it says a one-time connection fee of 0.00001846 BTC will be charged to connect to this Paym. This fee covers the cost of creating a one-time transaction to create a record on the blockchain. This keeps Paynyms decentralized. So I'm going to say, okay, connect. And it should just kind of lead me through and make the connection. There we go. Okay. So this has made a very small payment. And once there is a confirmation on that payment, I should have the ability to send transactions to this person via Paym, as opposed to having to request a receive address from them. So we'll wait for that to happen, and we'll be right back. And so after a confirmation of that transaction, we can see that everything is showing as connected and following, and the history waiting on a confirmation is no longer there. However, if I go back to my main screen, I can see that there is at least one confirmation on the transaction, and that's enough to establish that connection and to be able to send to my new contact that I'm following and send via Paym. So up next, we're going to show how to send via Paym to somebody you've added to your list. So sending to a Paym is very simple. All we're going to do is we're going to hit the plus sign in the bottom. We'll go to our Paym screen. And we're going to look for the contact we'd like to send to, which is listed right there, Funny Times 77. I'm going to click on them. There's a little send button in the top right, and I can paste there. Click there rather. There is already the Paynym ID listed in the to field, and then simply we just need to choose the amount that we would like to send. And so I'm going to go ahead and let's just send over 100,000 sats. Do that. Now, it does by default add some additional hops between your wallet and the final destination for increased fungibility. And it does by default in this instance also do staggered delivery. So each hop will appear in the mempool one block apart, designed to be slow, do not enable for urgent sends. Now, whether or not you utilize these two features is up to you. For this example, I think I'm not going to do it, again, just in the interest of saving time, but those options are there. Just to examine really quick anything else that we might want to look at, top right, let's click on the little profile option there, and it shows the Paym that we're sending to. The three dots here, again, we have options for batch spends and showing our UTXOs and all that kind of stuff. So some of those features that we've seen before. Minor fees can also be edited there, and it shows, or rather can be shown there, and it shows kind of where we might want to set our minor fee at. So I'll hit OK there. So I'll turn off the Ricochet option for now. We'll just send the base 100,000. I'll hit the little button at the bottom, the arrow there. And it lets me know, okay, I'm sending to Funny Time 77 for 100,000 sats. Note that it doesn't actually say a Bitcoin address. It will figure one out as it goes to send. That's what Paynyms do. The fees, 4 sats per byte, I'm going to bump that up a little bit. Let's do next block. And it's been popping around a little bit, so I'm actually going to increase it to 7. Okay. And then the type of transaction. So it is a Stonewall. So let's hit preview and see what's going on here. We're going to be pulling from 2 different UTXOs, and we're going to be sending 100,000 sats to the actual destination. We're also going to be sending 100,000 sats to ourselves as like a decoy coin join, basically a self coin join. And then we've got 2 other pieces of change coming in and our mining fee. Okay. So we'll just go back here. I'm going to hold and then swipe to send, creating transaction. So it's basically generating a send an address to that person via the Paym, and it has sent off. So what did this accomplish in terms of privacy? Well, this individual wouldn't have had to share anything specifically with me in terms of if they had posted their Paym ID on a public platform. I could have simply followed and connected with them and then sent them payments freely. Furthermore, I don't have to request, if I have a connection with somebody and I know I'm going to be paying them regularly, I don't have to request a new address from them every single time. I can simply say, I want to send to this Paym, and I will be able to generate an address for them myself, and it will get to them. So it's reusable payment codes on top of, if you post that information privately or publicly rather, it doesn't give a static address that people can track indefinitely. So awesome. Love it. I'm not going to mark the change, do not spend. I'll hit the X here. We'll jump back. And then that transaction, if I hit a quick refresh, should populate in my pending outgoing transactions. There it is. Perfect. And I'll do a quick peek on the other wallet here. And I should see an incoming transaction, and I'll just quickly hold it up here so you guys can also see the same thing that I am. Maybe I'll enlarge my screen really quick. So we'll do this. Okay, and there's 100,000 sats coming into the other wallet. I didn't have to create any address and share it with somebody. They just had my Paym ID, and I was able to receive funds. So in the last example of sending to a Paynym, we saw that my wallet itself did a fake coin join with my own UTXOs. And so that, again, adds some obfuscation and some confusion when it comes to on-chain analysis, makes it harder to pinpoint for certain what has happened and what the transaction was for and the actual recipient versus the person that sent it. Now, in some instances, you may not have enough UTXOs, or your wallet may just be a single UTXO, or you might not have the balance to make that type of transaction work. But there is another option as well. And this is a collaborative transaction with the person you're sending to. Now, this does require some active involvement with the person that's receiving. But what would happen is you would be sending to the person and they would be adding their own UTXOs into the mix to make it confusing as to, again, who's getting what and in what denomination. So this would be another flavor of what happened with the previous transaction, where I'm taking extra money that doesn't need to be involved in the transaction and adding it in such a way where it's hard to decipher. Well, the person that I'm sending to is going to contribute to that and make it difficult to understand exactly what's being spent and where. And so we're going to investigate that right now. Okay, so on my end, I'm going to go to the top left, tap my avatar. I'm going to choose collaborate. I'm going to choose my transaction type by tapping there. And we're going to pick between one of two options. Again, Stonewall is you initiate a transaction to a third party. So somebody, just a random address, wherever you want, with the help of a collaborator to create a high entropy transaction where the person contributes UTXOs like I did previously when sending with my own UTXOs, but to make confusion on chain so that it's difficult to decipher what's going on. Stowaway is I'm actually sending to the person with the Paynym and they're contributing UTXOs as well to, again, make some on-chain confusion so it's difficult to decipher what's going on and who got what. So I'm going to choose the second one. We're going to go and send to the person that has the Paynym themselves. So we'll go stowaway. Now, there's an in-person and manual way of doing this where you're scanning QR codes to share information, or there's an online way. So we're going to do the online way. Again, this person needs to be ready and knowing that this is about to happen in order for this to work, because they need to approve transactions as well. So I'm going to hit online. Then we're going to choose our collaborator by tapping, and we only have one person to collaborate with at the moment, but you may have many. So choose the appropriate one. And then we're going to set up the transaction by hitting where it says none selected. And we're going to choose the account that we want to take funds from. So the only one that we have with money in it. So it says send destination is funny times 77. We need to set the amount. Please note that this is in BTC currently. If you want to type in sats, then tap where it says BTC. So it switches to sats and then type in your amount. Let's do a random number 122,000 sats. Okay, great. And then our miner fee rate, it's just a slider. I'm going to go all the way up so that it's next block. Just pay attention that your fee rate is okay for you. We'll hit review. Okay. And now I'm going to hit begin transaction. Okay. Now this is where the partner needs to go through a similar process to me. So what I'm going to do is on this other phone, same thing, tap the avatar, hit collaborate, but this time they're going to choose participate. As I said before, they're going to choose their appropriate account, and then they're going to listen for Kahoot's requests. And so what this will do is it's going to show me a screen. Once I hit listen for Kahoot's requests, it will show me, hey, somebody wants to collaborate with you. Do you want to accept this? And you can hit no or yes. I'm hitting yes on the phone right now. Okay, so it now has moved on to step 2 and then 3. So I'll show what's happening on the other phone here. Okay, and it's telling me that everything's being connected, everything's being sent. So basically the person just has to approve the transaction, and it's waiting until everything completes. So it's here on this screen, it's showing as complete. The receiver, it's still in the final step here. So it's just saying it's connected. Please wait until it completes. And now it's on me to send the transaction. So on the screen here, I'm simply going to hold, swipe to send. It will broadcast, and I should get, there we go, notification. It went out of that screen on the other phone, and I should be seeing, and I'll do a quick refresh here. Okay, and so there's the transaction going out, and I'm going to refresh on the other phone here where I should see the transaction coming in, and there it is, 122,000 sats coming in. But let's take a look at what that transaction actually looks like in practice. So I'm going to tap on it here, 123,944. Let's tap on that transaction. So it's obviously unconfirmed at this point, but we'll tap on the top right to get an idea of what the transaction actually looked like. All right, so I'm here on mempool.space, and I want to show you what this transaction actually looks like. Remember, I sent 122,000 sats to this person. And what we're going to see in the block explorer of what actually happened looks entirely different. Now, why is that? Okay, so here's our transaction waiting to be confirmed. There's the graph. So I contributed some funds and the recipient contributed some funds. But let's look at those inputs and outputs, because this is where it gets funky. So you can see here, there's one input of 148,154 sats. There's another input of 320,000 sats. Now the outputs, you would expect to see a few things. You would expect to see an output of 122,000 sats, and then a fee, and then some change. What do we actually see? We see an output of 24,210 sats, and we see an output of 442,000 sats. So let's decipher what happened here. In the end, I needed to send 122,000 sats to this individual. Now, there were two outputs. One of them was for, what was it, I'm recalling here, 24,210 sats. The other output was quite a bit larger, 442,000 sats. So one of those is the recipient, and one of those is me getting change. Pretty clearly, I wouldn't be getting the 440 because then the other person would be down. And so I contributed a UTXO that was 120, 140, 150,000 sats, something in that range, which covered the fee plus sending to the person the 122 plus the minor fee. The other person contributed a large UTXO into this as well as part of the send, but then sent it back to themselves as well. And so their UTXO combined with the 122 that I was sending to them, which showed that 442,000 sat UTXO. So they used a 300,000 sat UTXO and sent it in with it. And so the on the outside looking in, it's really hard to tell who was sending where and to who, and what was change and what was not, because the actual amount that I sent is not there, is not in the actual amounts, like on the outputs. Nowhere in here do you specifically see 122,000 sats, but that's what I sent. The confusion is that they added change into the mix, and that obfuscates exactly what the transaction was. And that's super cool. Now, we just did this sending specifically to somebody with a Paym, but I can collaborate with somebody to send to someone that doesn't have a Paym, that is just a Bitcoin address. And we're going to do that next. So for this next transaction, we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to send to a totally external Bitcoin address, okay? We're still going to collaborate between two people to do it, but one person is trying to send a transaction to someone, and they want to obfuscate kind of how that transaction got there. What UTXOs came from where, who was paying whom, how much change went back to each person. That part will be difficult to decipher. And what I want to do here is I want the phone that's plugged in to be the one that opts to participate, so that they're actually the one joining in after the fact. And furthermore, we're going to do it in a way that is in person. So we're just kind of seeing some variations of how these things can work. So here on the other phone that I'm using, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose my avatar in the top left and hit collaborate as we've seen in the past. Okay. And we're going to choose our transaction type. The transaction type is going to be the top option, Stonewall ×2. All right. That one right there. Okay. When I tap that, I'm going to choose in person / manual, the top option. Now, upon this time, all that I see for options is set up transaction. So I'm going to do that now. When I've selected that, all it asks is what account do you want it to come out of? So as before, the one with the funds that you want to pull from. And we get to our transaction screen, okay? The destination and the send amount, and that's pretty much it, and our fee. Now, I'm going to be scanning a QR code of an address, or rather of an external wallet that is here on my computer. And so in order to do that, there's the QR button in the top top right of the phone. So on this screen, there's a QR button just up here, and I'm going to tap that. That opens up my camera so I can then scan the QR code on the screen, and that then fills in the Bitcoin address. At this point, I'm going to choose an amount. I'm going to do random 347,000 sats, we'll say, and I'll hit my miner fee so that it will confirm quickly. At this point, I'm going to choose the button at the bottom, review transaction setup. So I tap that, and it gives me a quick rundown of everything that I've done, and I'm going to choose begin transaction. Now, at this point, it's going to take me through a series of steps where we're going to be scanning QR codes back and forth between the two participants of this transaction. So the first thing that I see as the initiator is step 1, show your QR code. So I'm going to tap that now, and it shows this QR code, and you want the other participant to scan it from their phone. And so let's bring up the other phone on the screen now. Okay. So all I'm going to do as the person that's joining into this transaction is there's the scan button up at the top of the screen there. We're going to click that to open up the camera, and we're going to scan the QR code that was on the other person's phone. And it says, hey, you're participating in a collaborative transaction. And so it says step 2 now is you're going to show your QR code. And so that brings up another one. And the other participant is going to go back to their phone, and there's going to be a bit of transitioning here. They're still on their original QR code. So just tap anywhere to get rid of that. And then there's the option to scan, to open the QR scanner. So I'm going to do that again. Camera's open. I'm going to scan the other person's phone. And so there's going to be a little bit of back and forth, because as soon as I do that, it moves it forward, step 3 of 5, and it says show QR code. That's the next thing to do. So what we're doing is we're sharing information back and forth about how this transaction is going to be structured. We're contributing UTXOs. Where is it going? All of that. So there's a little bit of a few steps here to go through. So again, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to now launch the QR scanner because the other person has a QR for me. There we go. And on this phone, I can say show QR code one last time, and I'll just go back and I'll scan it with the other phone one more time. There we go. Okay. And so this phone now, we're pretty much good to go. And so what I've got on the main screen here, one second, of the actual sending phone is this 505, and as we've seen before, hold and then slide to send. So I'm doing that, swipe to send, and off that transaction will go. And then we're going to take a look online to see what that looks like. All right, so let's look at what that looks like on the two individual phones. So remember, I sent 347,000 sats to somebody. So we see an outgoing transaction for 348 and change. And that is, of course, covering the miner fee. Let's take a look at the person that helped with the transaction. We see an outgoing transaction of 1,278 sats. What's that? Well, that is we're splitting the miner fee between the two participants. So I'm spending 1,300 sats on the miner fee to help with that transaction going through. Let's take a peek at what that transaction looks like on the blockchain. Remember, the actual transaction was for 347,000 sats, but we want to see who sent it. Where did it come from? Let's take a look. All right, so here we are on mempool.space looking at that transaction. So let's see what was happening on chain there. So we have an incoming UTXO of 350,000 sats. We also have an input of 575,000 sats. On the other end, we have a fee. We also have 1,700 sats roughly. We have 226,000 sats. We have an output of 347,000 sats. And we have another output of 347,000 sats. So there, one of those might be the recipient. There you go. That's some change. Who got it? Which one of these contributors to this transaction got it? Or was this one person doing a fake coin join, or was it two participants? These are the interpretations that you can see that you could argue for. But nonetheless, we're not sure necessarily who the recipient was and who was just getting change back to themselves. We don't know who the actual sender was versus who was just sending some money back to themselves. We don't know if this was one or two people. And so in sending 347,000 sats to an individual, just to their own Bitcoin address, and collaborating with another person in doing so, we've created some on-chain confusion so that it's difficult to decipher what has happened. And we've done it in person, but we could have done it online through the same mechanism that we executed the first coin join, where we just sent directly to somebody's Paynym. Now, a lot of this past section has been in and around the use of some of these privacy tools alongside the use of Paynyms. So all the collaborative transactions that we just went through. Now, I do want to show something really cool. This is a website called paynym.rs. So PAYNYM.rs. You can actually look up other Paynyms, and you do have a dedicated page here that you can send people to be able to find your Paynym. So what you can do is if you head here, there's actually a little sign in button up at the top. And this allows you to actually utilize your wallet simply by scanning the QR code on the screen with your Ashigaru wallet. So I'm going to do that right now, and I'll just show you again the little QR code in the top of the screen there. I tap that, it opens up my camera, and then I'll just scan the QR code on the screen, and then I can hit authenticate. And once I've done so, it should open up. There you go. There's the page. So again, I just open up my QR code on my screen and I scan that, and it will log me in anonymously because, again, your Paym is anonymous. But it will allow you to basically see a summary of your followers, who you're following. You can show the followers and be able to click on them. And then this is also a place that you can just send people to be able to follow you, and then initiate collaborative transactions once they have a link. I would encourage you, again, I know a number of you may not yet have contacts with when it comes to Paynyms. Feel free to follow me if you like. And I encourage you all to kind of reach out to others that are in and around Bitcoin. It is okay to share your Paym information publicly because it does not directly link to any specific Bitcoin addresses by having this or your QR code or your payment code listed on social media profiles or whatever, and then begin to perhaps stack Paym contacts so that you have more people to be able to do collaborative transactions with. I encourage you to point people also towards this guide, towards the Ashigaru website, towards all of the resources that I've provided here. And furthermore, one other thing that I'd like to throw in is at times you may find that the Ashigaru website itself is down because clearly this person is hosting it, or you may have people not want you to be able to access that information, but you can also access it via the webarchive.org, web.archive.org, and search for ashigaru.rs. I'll include that full link down below, and then you'll still be able to get into the docs and all of that information, all of the guides that we went through in the previous video for setting up, and find download links and everything. I've also included the download link for the Ashigaru Tor download of the APK file. All of that's down below. So even if the website itself is inaccessible at the time when you go to look it up, you can still find the archived version of it, which will have the appropriate information anyways. All right, so finally, I do want to show a recovery of your wallet. Now, I've sent the funds out of this wallet just to ensure I'm not losing a million sats during this demo, but ideally, you want to do this when there's not a lot of balance in the wallet, so you know that you can indeed recover. So let's actually go ahead and let's shut down the wallet and let's fully uninstall it from the phone. So I'm going to drag, I'm going to uninstall said wallet entirely from the phone. So at this point, I no longer have the seed phrase or anything on the phone. And this can happen by accident. People accidentally delete apps from time to time. Understandable. You got to be careful, but try not to do that. But what I would do at this point is I would go and I would find that same link to, once again, download and install the Ashigaru wallet. So remember that required Tor browser to be open and the link that I've provided in the show notes down below. So I'm currently opening that up and connecting to a Tor circuit. Now I believe, Tor does blank out my screen. So I'm unable to share that process with you. But again, if you open your Tor browser and you use the link, it will give the option to now install Ashigaru onto your phone. So I'm going to jump ahead to where I've successfully reinstalled it back onto my phone, and we'll see the recovery process. All right, so I've now gone through, I've installed Ashigaru once again, and I'm greeted after my initial screen to get started to have the option of creating a new wallet or restoring an existing wallet. So of course, this time around, I'm going to choose to restore an existing. And then it says, once again, it gives me these options here. I have an Ashigaru or Samourai paper wallet, which is 12 words and a passphrase. I have an Ashigaru or Samourai backup file. That's an encrypted backup file and passphrase, or I have an external wallet. Now, it would be one of the first two. And whether you use one or the other depends on what happened for you to lose the wallet in the first place. If you are on the same phone and you accidentally deleted the app, then the Ashigaru will have backed up, if you had that setting enabled, will have backed up a file to your phone that is encrypted using your passphrase. And so then all you need to do is choose that file, find it on your phone, and then type in your passphrase, and it will recover everything that you need. However, if you don't have that file, maybe it's a new phone, maybe whatever happened, and you're on a different device, or you didn't have that file backed up for some reason, then your 12 words and your passphrase will do just fine. So I'm going to choose the top option because it's the most kind of in-depth one that we can do here. But again, your file and passphrase would work just fine. So I'll choose that top option, and then it gives me simply a text box and then the option to add a passphrase, which you will do, the one that you previously used. So you're going to type in your 12 words, you're going to type in your passphrase, make sure you pay attention to uppercase and lowercase and symbols. There's no notification if you type that passphrase incorrectly. Okay, so be sure that it was the same as the original one that you set up. I'm going to type that information in and we'll be back on the next screen to see what comes up for us. After having put in my information, it's going to ask me for a PIN code. This does not need to be the same as it was previously. This is simply a security measure for this particular device. It is not tied to your seed phrase and passphrase in any way. So you can use the same one, you can use a different one, totally up to you. I'm going to put that in twice, once to set it and the second time to confirm I've done it correctly, and then we'll jump ahead. Now, the last or one of the last pieces of the puzzle is to once again configure your server, aka scan the QR code on your server to link it to your Ashigaru node. And so once again, as a reminder, this can be done by bringing up your Dojo maintenance tool. This is in the previous tutorial, so if you're unfamiliar, then you likely haven't gotten this far in the first place. So go back and learn how to set up your own dojo first. But there's a Dojo maintenance tool, which as a reminder, you would access via Tor browser. You would have a link that you have bookmarked that you can easily get to, and you would have a password saved probably in KeyPass if you did it the same as me to log in. And there's an option under tools that says pairing, and that just gives you a nice little QR code. And so what I would do here is on my screen, I would choose scan QR code. We're going to grant access to the camera, and I'm going to scan a QR code, and we'll be right back. Once I've scanned that information, it recognizes it and I hit continue. It says we need to access file storage and save an encrypted backup. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit choose, and I'll save my file to the spot of my choosing. That will bring me to a syncing screen so I can see my dojos connected. I have my extended public key, BIP47. So this is in and around my Paynym. It recognizes my Paynym from before, and now it's checking for Paynym contacts that I may have. And there we go. So it does notice that I have one. So it's now syncing addresses, retrieving any other connections that I may have. And it looks like it found everything, so I can hit continue. And already I can see my whole wallet history is present here. So everything is good and functioning. If I go to my Paynym itself up top, it should load the connection that I had with my other account for the Funny Time 77 one. And yes, it's all here. Everything is recovered with my seed phrase and my passphrase. And now I am back linked up to my dojo, ready to once again use Ashigaru Wallet. Now, I wanted to add in one thing, and that is that, once again, websites can be shut down and removed, or broken links can happen. And so all of the documentation as it pertains to the Ashigaru Dojo from the previous video and the wallet itself from this video, at least the parts that require documentation, I've made a copy of all that information. Now, some of the screenshots and images of that did not transfer over well and broke, but all of the text, all of the commands, all of the information is there. And so I recommend that you can use that as a resource. It will be linked in the show notes down below. But furthermore, to stay resilient and to kind of keep this accessible to others, it would be a good idea if you as an individual perhaps also took a copy of this information. Wants to be free, and let's keep it that way. So if you get the chance, there'll be a link in the docs, or if you want to copy it from the website itself, then please do make copies of this information so that it remains available to all. And yeah, you can see that down below. So some final thoughts here in and around Ashigaru Wallet. Number one, I'm very happy to see that despite Samourai being shut down and founders, trials ongoing and everything, that, as I said previously, information does want to be free. And this is simply code that anybody can view and duplicate and run. And so I think that it will continue to proliferate regardless of what happens. And we're once again seeing that these privacy tools, which privacy in and of itself is not a crime, somebody should be able to use money and not have any person on the street be able to begin to paint a picture of their net worth and how they spend their money. And so it's completely reasonable, in my opinion, that somebody would want to obfuscate that and be able to go and make purchases and use their money without risking people delving into their private lives and how they decide to keep their money, and more importantly, how much money they have. God forbid that they become a target of somebody wanting to steal from them. So with that, I'm very happy to see what has come to fruition with Ashigaru and the anonymous fork of Samourai Wallet. Now, of course, the dojo setup in and of itself is a bit of a project. And so it's going to take those that are very committed to wanting to make sure that these tools proliferate and that they want to maintain their privacy through them. There's going to be a bit of a learning curve, especially for those unfamiliar. My hope is that over time, these tools get easier and easier to implement. The wallet interface itself is pretty simple to navigate. I didn't find that particularly difficult. And adding paynyms and contacts and everything like that is pretty intuitive. Now, of course, the elephant in the room is, well, there was a section for Whirlpool and CoinJoin, but we didn't use it. And that's because the Whirlpool coordinator no longer exists. And what I think may happen in the future, as happened with the wallet software itself, is that you may see instances of coordinators popping up in the wild that aren't identified as being run by any particular person. They'll be anonymously run. And when that happens, it's likely that you'll be able to link those coordinators to your dojo and your Ashigaru wallet. And once again, be using that protocol to CoinJoin on the fly. Now, I have not seen this yet, but you can be sure that when I do encounter it, I will be back with another video in this series to tag on so that you know how to add said coordinator should it exist, or coordinators. There may be multiple, who knows. But that is my hope, and the direction that I'm seeing with all of these top-down pressures, threatening the existence of these privacy tools, the direction that we're headed, I think in the end will make all of these tools much more resilient. So that's kind of my main takeaway here. I'm not going to get into specifics in and around the protocol and all of that, but I'm encouraged in seeing that this tool even exists, and I encourage you to help this information get out there. If it seems a little cumbersome, I encourage you to try to learn and experiment. The more people that become better versed in this stuff, the better. And as they become easier, well, you'll just be better informed and you'll be able to more easily help people through learning these tools. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think, what your experiences are, what you ran into, what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd like to see in the future. And I also encourage you to, from the Ashigaru website, reach out with any bugs or any issues that you encounter. They do leave an email address, a Proton Mail email address, or rather an encrypted email address, a private one that you can reach out to. And so then you yourself can also help with the development process by finding and making the devs aware to fix particular bugs. So anyways, I look forward to hearing from you guys in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, please do like, subscribe, share, all those things. They really do help a ton getting this content in front of more eyeballs. If you want to help the show in another way, you can hit up the previously mentioned sponsors. Those are in the show notes down below. And if you have been sorting through the channel, you've been working on some tutorials trying to level up, but you need a little bit of extra assistance, you need some one-on-one hand holding, then I encourage you to reach out to my team at bitcoinmentor.io. We've aggregated an incredible group of educators that can walk you through anything from wallets to hardware to multisig to privacy, as we've covered, running nodes like the Dojo or Start9 or others, and plenty of other topics that you may be curious about. Again, you can hit them at bitcoinmentor.io. And if you're already leveled up, but you want to earn some sats over the coming years as more and more people get curious about Bitcoin and you want to point them in the direction of educators that can help them through, then you can become a Bitcoin Mentor affiliate. There will be a link down below for that. And with that, if you sign up and you share your link and you help educate others, every time they book a session through us, you will get $21. And not just for their first session, but for every subsequent one after that. And you will be paid out at the end of each month in Bitcoin. So with that, I am out. Have yourselves a wonderful day or evening, wherever you may be. See you guys next time for your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.